But I'm interested how this works with the AngelList syndicates, because you were talking backstage that's like really changed how you do and how you invest. And you have conversations now where you're like, an angel, I'd say yes, as this, I can't.
Yeah, so I used to put 10 to 50K into stuff. And then I created the Launch Fund, which is based on the conference series, the Launch Festival, which had 6,000 people last year, will have 8,000 this year. Cost about $1 million to do that event. That's the event that came out of TechCrunch 50 breaking up. Disrupt went this way and Launch went this way. And Launch now, I run it at a break even, and I don't make any profit off of it. Some years I lose a little bit of money, in fact. But there's 9 full-time people working on that company, and there's a CEO and everything. It's doing very well. And whoever wins the competition, I agree to invest in them if they want me as an investor. Not before, after. Right? It's a key differentiator. So it's not like I take the companies I've already invested in, like Mike is doing, and then make them win.
Right.
I do it the other way. I let them win, and then I invest. But I said to, David Sachs said to me, you're doing all this work filtering, you should just have a fund. And I said, well, that's a good idea. And he said, let's do it together. So we did it, and we made a $500,000 fund, but then a bunch of other people found out about it. It became a $10 million fund, or thereabouts, between 9 and 10. I don't know the exact number of where it ended. So now I'm deploying that. So I'm investing about $2 or $3 million a year for the next 3 or 4 years in the winners of those, and then other people who've been on the stage over the last 6 or 7 years. So if somebody was a judge or somebody who was a fireside chat, that would qualify them as well. But the basic thesis of the fund is the people who've been in and around those events have done extremely well,
Yeah.
It's quite a track record, and just invest in them. And that means I can now write $250,000 checks, $50,000 checks, $100,000 checks pretty easily. And then Naval created AngelList to do syndicates. And he, had told me about this 2 years he had told me about his intention to do this. A year ago, he told me I should raise my own fund. And then he emails me right as I'm closing the fund and says, hey, check this out. And he shows me the page. He sends me the URL. So I take his name out of the URL and I put my name into it, like in the URL structure. Instead of angel.co/Naval/syndicate, I just put Jason in there. And lo and behold, it was on my account. So I activated it. And I said, can I activate that? And he's like, sure, whatever. So I do it, and it sends it to 25,000 people. 2 weeks before he thought he was going to start the thing. And he's like, oh my God, and exactly what he said. And all of a sudden, 100,000 people sign up, and it's like, wow, this is incredible. And then all of a sudden it gets to 900,000, and Kevin Rose gets to $2.5 million, and Dave Morin gets to $1.5 million, and gosh, it's just become this incredible thing. And I think maybe half that money will show up, or a third of that money will show up on an individual deal basis. But what that means is I went from being an afterthought, just like, oh, it might be nice to have Jason involved, to with the fund being like, oh, Jason could be a nice part of the round, to now Jason could lead the round. And I think that's a fundamental change in how Silicon Valley is going to work. And I think that's why the bottom tier of venture capital firms hated AngelList, tried to deride AngelList, and said like, one famous venture capitalist took the time to write a blog post. I'm closing my AngelList profile, and I'm taking my ball and going home. And it was like, really? Like, you hated that? I mean, you don't have to close your account. I mean, why would you do that? Like, just,
Or write about it.
Or write about it, like write a blog post. Like, that's like, I'm not going to work with YouTube anymore, and I'm going to write a blog post about it.
Who would do that?
Like, you're really trying to make a point, right? And so, what a loudmouth, referring to myself. But anyway, he was, people were very vocal about that. And so for me, I think that Naval is going to have one of the biggest impacts of anybody in the history of entrepreneurship, because this is, and I don't say that lightly, I think this is as transformative as Kickstarter has been to projects. There are a lot more projects in the world that now exist because this Kickstarter thing has taken off. It's going to mean when I meet an entrepreneur who other people won't back, I can just make the decision to back them, and a bunch of other people will come along for the ride, knowing that you have to do 40 angel investments in order to get a return in general, some portfolio theory. And what's going to happen is civilians, unaccredited investors, non-accredited investors, people with smaller net worths, just regular people, instead of putting $100 on black on the roulette table in Vegas or blowing $500 in their weekly poker game, could put $500 into LinkedIn or to Facebook or Twitter, which they used. If you were the HR person, the lowest level HR person at every single company in the world knew LinkedIn was a hit long before any of the rest of us did.
Right.
They should have been able to put that $100 in that $100 would have been worth 1,000x. That would have been transformative for those people.
Well, I mean, we got into this conversation with Henry Blodgett last week about how companies have been moved later and later to going public. I mean, when he was taking companies public, people did have that experience, fairly early on. I think that's part of what Second Market and AngelList is trying to correct.
Yeah, and now, this bubble is completely different than the first bubble. The first bubble was based on companies that had no revenue, literally no revenue. I mean, there was one point, you probably remember this, where a company went public on the idea that it was going to do 10 ideas. Like, it was, we're a company that's going to, we're going to put a bunch of smart people together and go public with $100 million with $100 million investment, and we're going to come up with 10 ideas. Like, they were basically going public as a potential
Series A.
Yeah, it was like an incubator. It was like 10 Series A's at once. It was very weird. And now you have like these companies just throw off revenue instantly. Like a lot of these things I'm angel investing, they're like, I have $17,000 a month in recurring revenue. Oh, we had $52,000 in reoccurring revenue last month, and we're doing $600,000 a year, and we spend $750,000 a year when we do an air round. It was like, wow, like the last time, like nobody was making any money. And now these people are really making money. There's no question about the opportunity now. That doesn't mean people won't lose their money.
It's very binary, small and big.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. Like there are going to be a whole cluster of companies that, by binary, like if you consider it being a self-sustaining, very tiny business, or dude business as I call them, like two dudes in a business that makes $1 million, but that's all it'll ever be. Like a lot of these angel investments are going to turn into that. Yeah. Which will be like, the founders are just going to be like, we'll buy you guys out. We'll give you your money back or something. Like there's going to be a lot of these sideways things, because if you do software as a service and you charge $5,000 for your service and you get 10 people to do it, all of a sudden you got a sustainable business. Like that's happening over and over again in the market in all different places. Right. Doesn't mean they're going to become Dropbox or Box or Yammer, right? Like that takes a different level of skill and deftness, but we're going to have a lot of those small single and doubles. So you think AngelList syndicates are going to work? Because there's a lot of people who feel like the benefits really aren't there for the people who come on. There's a lot of sort of fandom that people are piling in on, but, isn't necessarily going to shake out once people start, losing their money, or, a lot of these, it's kind of like, there's too much faddishness around it almost. Like, what do these people do they even know Dave Warren's track record? Do they even know his portfolio? They do. You just click on the portfolio and you see it, and you see really impressive stuff. I mean, and Kevin Rose's is very impressive. So the answer is yes. And Kevin Rose can get a meeting with anybody. Dave Warren can get a meeting with anybody. So you think it's rational? I think it's completely rational as long as it's a small percentage of your net worth. Now, I wouldn't be like, I'm going to follow Kevin Rose's next 5 investments and put all my nest egg in there, and that's going to work out. If you said, I'm going to take 5% of my net worth and put it in angel investing, that would be probably what CalPERS and, Harvard's endowment does. So why should that be any different for individuals? And if any individual will lose 5%, or lose, half of that, 2.5%, it might be worth the potentiality of hitting an Uber or a Google or a Facebook or, a unicorn or super unicorn. Because if you did, it would be life transforming money. So if you asked anybody, hey, I've got $100,000 life savings. If you said, hey, well, you can put $5,000 to work and it's $100 per deal and you get 50 deals, but that 100, if it hits a LinkedIn, could go 1,000x and it'll pay, $10 million or whatever that is, or $1 million. It's incredible. Like, no, it's $10 million. It's like, wow, that could be incredible. I just feel like there's this sense that it's this easy money, and that once people get into it, they're going to be like, oh, well, where's my Facebook? Well, I mean, that is... the kind of thing you're describing is so rare. Are people really going to do 40, 60 I think that's deals? That's the challenge we're going to have to communicate to people. Yeah, and I know Naval really wants to communicate it. Yeah, and I'm communicating it to people as well. I'm taking it super serious. Like, listen, if you're going to do this, put in a small amount per deal. Do a lot of deals. Have some, because that's the way I did it. I did 40 deals, and one was Uber, and then a couple of other ones are very good as well. But, when I do the next 50, I'm not doing 5 more, I'm doing 50 more. There's a thesis here. I have access to deals that other people don't have access to because of the event, because of this being startups, and I'm going to systematically invest in those a dozen a year for 3-4 years, right? And there'll be 50 that get invested in, and we'll double down on a couple of big ones, and hopefully that will turn out into a big return. If you buy into that and you put $100 or $500 into it, that could be a good bet. If you're going to do it one-off, no, of course it's not. But I mean, people are gambling in Vegas and blowing their money. So this idea that, you know, again, like having been on the other side of it, the fact is the poor and the middle class don't have many opportunities to hit a home run. So now we finally have an opportunity where they have access to possibly hitting a home run, and people are worried about them and trying to exclude them. Like but they're not excluded from Vegas. They're not excluded from, you know, betting their football pool every week. Like they can buy drugs or alcohol or gamble with their money. They should have the freedom to go angel invest with it, and they would have put money. That's the thing is, you know, the consumers knew Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn were hits. They knew it because they used the products. It was clear as day to people who used those products that they would be hits. And it's probably clear to the person who uses Zendesk or Box or Dropbox, who was using it in year 1 or 2, that those would have been hits too. Now, Kevin Rose has 2.5 million, I have almost 1 million, whatever. When the consumers come in, if this becomes a phenomenon like Kickstarter, it's conceivable that there could be 5 or 6 of us that have $3 or $4 million to invest. That means we do A rounds. And so then you're saying, like, is the partner meeting at this tier firm as good at judgment as a product person like Dave Morin or Kevin Rose or Tim Ferriss or myself? And are those VC firms, those bottom tier ones, are they going to have the ability to promote
but here's
at the level of Tim Ferriss?
Is that you're talking about bottom tier VCs versus you guys, because there really is not a substitute for a really good VC when you're talking about A rounds.
This is not substituting Sequoia or Benchmark or Excel or Andreessen Horowitz. No, this is additive.
The Walking Dead.
Yeah, The Walking Dead, or, you know, the Series A crunch. Like, okay, there's more opportunities than the VCs can absorb. This might be the natural release mechanism for the Series A crunch, which is we've expanded the base of people who can do, you know, follow-on funding. And I'm getting incredible entrepreneurs who want to do the AngelList Syndicate, and I'll have one by the end of the year, I'm certain, and I'll do 6, 7, 8 next year probably, maybe 10. And I think that, from what I've seen, the quality entrepreneurs want to do this. They want, there's one company that has a very good, you know, sort of affluent base of customers, and the entrepreneur was like, the people who are in your syndicate are our customers. We, you know, we want them advocating for us. We want them to be shareholders. We love the idea you could bring us 100 shareholders under one LLC, one item on the cap table. That represents 100 people who could be out there buying our product and using our product and amplifying it. And so that's going to be a very interesting kind of...
that's an interesting twist on it, for sure.
A huge twist on it. I mean, if all the if all the CIOs and if 100 CIOs out there who really love a product invest in it personally, $5,000 each or $1,000 each...
It's the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah. How so? Oh, yeah, the Green Bay Packers, right. They sold it to the...
Because they own it. Yeah, the
fans own it, right? It's going to be sold out forever.
Yeah.
People don't know. The Green Bay Packers sold the seats.
Everyone knows this.
Oh, okay.
The team is owned by the town.
The team is owned by the town, right?
Yeah.
Everybody owns shares in it.